Hey there, I'm Umesh Singh and welcome to Themyscira. It is a land of magic and wonder, worth cherishing in every way. Today we'll be continuing with my in-depth analysis of Wonder Woman. Note that this video series will freely discuss various aspects of the film, some of which could be considered spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers, then go ahead and watch the film before continuing with this video. You have been warned. Today I'll be diving into the history lesson sequence, which is comprised of a few different scenes that are intercut. We have Diana's bedchambers, the animated artwork, shots of Diana sneaking off to train with Antiope, a terrace scene, and the Tower of Themyscira. In the video description, I've linked an analysis video by one of my favorite podcasts. In that video, Samuel Otten presents the JLU Podcast team's in-depth analysis of the dialogue and themes of this sequence. Instead of rehashing much of the ideas presented in that video, I'll focus this video on things like symbolism, mythology, and visual storytelling. I'll try to analyze these scenes individually by location and a little bit out of sequence, rather than in the order that they are presented in the film. I think this will give me some better narrative flow in terms of my discussion points. So let's start off in Diana's bedroom. The most obvious visual element in the scene is the metal headboard, which resembles a shell. Aline Bonetto, the production designer, took inspiration from Botticelli's painting The Birth of Venus. In the art and making of the film book by Sharon Gosling, Bonetto says, "The metal aspect and the centerpiece look like a shield. It tells of where the Amazons came from, but also what she, Diana, will have to do." So if we look here, the shell is behind Diana, and she aspires to be on the battlefield. In the No Man's Land scene, we'll see that when Diana actually sets foot on the battlefield, she has a shield on her back. The connection is further reinforced by the strong radial lines in the shell design, as these are also features of the shield's design. Placement of Diana in a shell also draws thematic parallels to Botticelli's Venus, who is the Roman equivalent of the Greek goddess of love Aphrodite. So the composition of the shot provides us with a subtle hint that Diana is a goddess of love character, and that love plays a critical role in Diana's story and in her discovering her true powers. Placing her in a shell also evokes a pearl motif. Thinking back to the opening shot of the film, we saw a rendering of Earth with a bluish luster, and Diana described it as worth cherishing in every way. Here Diana is framed as a pearl, and Hippolyta tells her, "You're the most precious thing in the world to me." A quick tangent, so let's think about how pearls form. Natural pearls form when an irritant works its way into an oyster, mussel, or clam. As a defense mechanism, the mollusk secretes a fluid that coats the irritant. Layer upon layer of this coating, called nacre, or also pronounced nacre according to Wikipedia, is deposited until a lustrous pearl is formed. Pearls also symbolize wisdom acquired through experience, as in the phrase, pearls of wisdom. The scene opens with Diana's relentless desire to participate in combat training. This desire for combat can be interpreted as the irritant, and Hippolyta's strategy is to use history and words of wisdom, as in, war is nothing to hope for, to quell this desire. So wisdom can be seen as the layers of nacre that will be deposited onto the pearl over time. It is worth noting that as Diana enters the world of mankind, she is still quite naive, and that the wisdom she acquires along the way can therefore be seen as layers of nacre that build her up as a character going forward. In the opening shot of the scene, Diana was positioned centrally, but as she lays down, she reveals a design that incorporates multiple concentric circles at the center of the shell. This further reinforces the pearl motif and the layers of nacre interpretation. Now, pearls are not new to the DC Films universe. They are very prominently featured in the opening sequence of Batman v Superman. Katie, known as Story Advocate on Tumblr, has written an in-depth analysis of the pearls in the Beautiful Lie sequence, and their symbolism to Bruce Wayne's character arc in Batman v Superman. You'll find the link to that article down below. Coming back to Wonder Woman, as Hippolyta sits down to start the history lesson, we switch to a wider shot and we see an omega symbol straddling the shell that we analyzed earlier. In this scene, the young actress playing Diana, Lily Aspel, is 8 years old, and this history lesson marks the end of her ignorance towards Ares. The history lesson will also give Diana a clear indication that Ares has a vulnerability to lightning, and when she herself kills him with lightning, she will bring an end to the last of the old gods. Okay, so let's now move on to the animations of Hippolyta's history lesson itself. In this early shot, the narration clearly identifies Zeus up front. On the top left, we have Poseidon easily identified by his prominently displayed trident, and on the extreme right we can see Hermes identified by his winged wand called Kerykeion in Greek or Caduceus in Latin. In the center of the image we can see Heracles, who's also known as Hercules. In this next shot, the narration once again clearly identifies Ares, and he is presented in the same armor that we'll see him use in the final battle. Note his helmet has 4 horns, which are perhaps symbolic of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, being conquest, war, famine, and death. The effects of war depicted in the film were described to Diana by the mother that she meets in the trench. This woman relayed how the villagers have no food to eat, so representing famine, and the people who could not escape were enslaved, so conquest. And we also see the genocide in Veld as representative of death. So the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are definitely represented in various ways through the war. In response to Ares, the gods created the Amazons, which here are seen emerging from the ocean, with Hippolyta presumably leading the way out of the water. As mentioned earlier, this ties back to the birth of Venus that the filmmakers used as inspiration for the Amazons. I like that Hippolyta's hairstyle is also reminiscent of Botticelli's Venus. So kudos to Christine Blundell, the lead makeup and hair designer. As mentioned in my Scene 2 analysis, we also see Hippolyta leading the revolt that frees the slaves, as depicted in the mural that Diana runs past in the Themyscira marketplace. And we also see Antiope using a spear, which is reflected in the statue of her on the training ground. With the War of the Gods animations, we can clearly identify more of the gods. Earlier we saw Mercury and Hercules, who we now see flying towards camera. On the bottom right is Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, with her quiver. On the bottom left we have Harmonia, who we can identify by her necklace. Harmonia is the Greek goddess of harmony and concord. In Greek mythology, the necklace of Harmonia was created by the blacksmith god Hephaestus. It brought ill fortune to anyone who possessed it. In DC Comics, Harmonia's father is Ares, and she gives the amulet to Wonder Woman so that Diana can see the weaknesses of Ares. So if we combine these two, we can see that the necklace brings ill fortune to Harmonia, as we can see all the gods apart from Ares are killed. But the history lesson also gives Diana clues as how she can defeat Ares. In the next shot we have Achilles. Achilles is known to wield a sword and wear a metal breastplate and a gladiator skirt with decorative leather strips called pteryges. In the background we can see Solomon just below Achilles. Just behind Harmonia we can see Atlas, and flying off into the distance with his trident is Poseidon that we identified earlier. So we've seen Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, Mercury, and the first letters of those names add up to Shazam! Anyway, in the next shot we see Zeus wearing a blue robe when he confronts Ares. When Diana sneaks into the gala to confront who she believes is Ares, she also wears a blue outfit. Diana also sees how Zeus uses a lightning strike to force Ares' retreat. This foreshadows the way that Diana will kill Ares in the final battle. Now some people have asked why Diana is able to kill Ares with this move, but somehow Zeus was unable to. Well, here Zeus draws upon a single lightning bolt, and we see that it's only powerful enough to vaporize Ares' armor on the front, and later we'll see that it's burnt him, leaving him in a weakened state. Diana, on the other hand, stores 3 lightning bolts worth of energy, which Ares hurls at her in 2 consecutive attacks. So when she returns all the energy that she stored in a single devastating blast, it actually rips right through the already weakened Ares. So it's not exactly the same attack that Zeus had used, and it seems reasonable that Diana's is a much more powerful blast. In the next shot we see Zeus in a posture reminiscent of God in Michaelangelo's creation of Adam. This is matched to Antiope's narration. So Zeus left us a weapon, one powerful enough to kill a god. This plants the seed that the creation of a person, Diana, is the god killer rather than the sword, which is just a physical object. We then see a dome of protection that Zeus casts over the island. This ties back to the other mural at the marketplace that was covered in my Scene 2 analysis. Now let's move on to the scenes of Diana sneaking off to train. In this shot, in the background, we can see two glowing glass jars filled with water. This beautiful blue bioluminescent water is featured more heavily in the infirmary scene when Diana discovers that Steve Trevor is
above average.
I love how the Amazons use creative methods of providing lighting at night, not just burning wood. We also see a flock of white peafowl. The peacock is found in Greek mythology in the myth of Argos. According to some stories, Zeus turned his lover Io into a heifer in order to hide her from his wife Hera. Hera, suspicious of Zeus's infidelity, requested that he give her the heifer as a gift. In order not to confirm Hera's suspicion, Zeus complied. Hera then sent the giant Argus Panoptes, who was said to have 100 eyes, to watch over the heifer and prevent Zeus from visiting her. Zeus subsequently conspired with Hermes to kill Argus. According to the poet Ovid, to commemorate her faithful watchman, Hera had the 100 eyes of Argus preserved forever on a peacock's tail. So the 100 eyes on the tail of a peacock symbolize surveillance. However, the peacocks on Themyscira are white and therefore lack the eyes of Argus. This ties to the idea that the island of Themyscira is hidden, and why, if Diana chooses to leave, she may never be able to find her way back. I'll come back to peacocks later, but for now let's move on to the next shot, where we have young Diana meeting up with Antiope at night to start her training. Here, the entrance of the cave resembles the moonlit tower of Themyscira. There's also detail on this impression of the tower that can be interpreted as a window. In this scene, young Diana is learning from Antiope how to wield tools of battle. Later, when Diana raids the armory, we'll see the moonlit tower of Themyscira again, framed behind adult Diana, and there she'll be retrieving the tools that she will use in battle. The Tower of Themyscira is also very prominently featured in this daytime establishing shot. And then as Hippolyta and young Diana enter the tower, the doorway is framed similarly to create the impression of a tower, once again with a window near the top. You'll also notice a piece of wall on the right-hand side that is lit up. This piece of wall can be interpreted as the cliff that Diana will jump from in order to get into the tower. So this layout mirrors the right to left jump that she will have to do in order to reach the tower later on. Okay, so let's move on to the terrace scene, which was filmed at Villa Cimbrone in Ravello, Italy. This image was taken on location by Michael Grmek. The statue in the foreground is that of the Roman goddess Ceres, the equivalent to the Greek goddess Demeter. Demeter is the goddess of agriculture, fertility, and divine justice. In Greek mythology, Hades abducts Demeter's daughter Persephone and takes her to the underworld. Demeter's separation from her child causes her great anguish, so there's a slight parallel with Hippolyta's separation from Diana causing Hippolyta great anguish. Important difference, however, is that Diana chose to leave with Steve to go to man's world. He did not abduct her. In this shot again, we see white peafowl in the background. So let's look at peacocks again to get a more comprehensive picture of what they could mean. So the ancient Greeks believed that the flesh of peafowl did not decay after death, so peafowl became a symbol of immortality. As we know, the inhabitants of Themyscira appear not to age between Diana's childhood and her adulthood. And we also see that Diana has not visibly aged between the World War period that's depicted in the film and present day in the film. In Eastern cultures, peacocks have long been associated with royalty. They have been popular residents in royal gardens and orchards, where they serve a dual function of providing beautiful displays, but also as pest control. Being omnivorous, peafowl are also commonly seen hunting and eating venomous species of snakes and scorpions. This led people to believe that they were immune to poisons, with some even believing that it was to make the colors of their plumage all the more vibrant. If we take all of those different symbolisms for peacocks and we put it all into one, we can view Diana as a white peacock. Firstly, she's blind to the truth about what she is. which we'll find out was purposely hidden by Hippolyta's orders. That would be the white peacock lacking the eyes of Argos, so she doesn't have the full picture. Number 2, she's immortal. She's not visibly aged between 1918 and 2016. Number 3, she's considered royalty, being the princess of Themyscira. Number 4, she appears to be immune to the poison gas in Veld. We could also consider the white peacock as symbolic of Diana being a blank slate with regards to humanity. At this point in the film, she has not yet met any humans. However, later on, they will leave their mark on her forever. In Diana's words, she says, "I will never be the same." She has also not yet donned her Wonder Woman colors at this stage in the film. So I see the white peacock as a viable alternative interpretation of the first image that we had in this history lesson sequence. There are a few more alternative interpretations that we could go into that give it an even broader cultural significance, but I'll save those for another video. Anyway, so those were my thoughts on the history lesson sequence. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave your thoughts down below, and if you found this video interesting, please like, share and discuss it with fans of great cinema. I hope you'll join me as I delve deeper into Wonder Woman in future episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and always I wish you peace, joy and love.